Thank you. And now I'd like to recognize the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania, Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Raimundo, for honoring this committee's invitation to be here today.
Morning.
I'm proud that the EDA has a robust and positive working relationship with the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. I commend EDA's commitment to equity as a top priority in their grants and programs, as the administration encourages its grantees throughout the country to develop initiatives that present new ideas and creative approaches to advance economic prosperity in distressed communities. NIST has been vital in advancing U.S. innovation and competitiveness. As someone who likes cold hard facts, NIST work directly impacts the daily lives of citizens to improve not only physical tangibles like products, services, and infrastructures, but also improve our quality of life and standard of living. As a proud representative of Western Pennsylvania, my constituents expect us to address their concerns on the implications AI will have on our labor and our workforce. AI presents fascinating opportunities in STEM and advanced manufacturing, but we also need to exercise caution to ensure that we provide access to opportunity for skills training and education to every worker, and that we're truly understanding the ethical implications involved and the concerns regarding bias and discrimination. Investments in our future through legislation like the CHIPS and Science Act will only continue to foster more success stories like those in my district and across the country through the work that's done through NIST, but this work does change lives. Secretary Raimundo, how is the Department of Commerce collaborating with other agencies to ensure that domestic content requirements for tax credit incentives in industries like steel manufacturing ensure American competitiveness and robust business opportunities for small and mid-sized enterprises?
Sorry, can you, first of all, it's nice to meet you. Just say the last, I was with you on the AI, and then
Yeah, we left there.
No.
You've been here for a long time, and it's freezing in here. My question is about how Department of Commerce is collaborating with other agencies to ensure that domestic content requirements for tax credit incentives industries like steel manufacturing ensure American competitiveness and robust business opportunities for small and mid-sized companies.
Yeah, okay, sorry. We're really serious about enforcing all of that. I mean, you know better than most that Chinese dumping of cheap steel into the market has hurt a lot of people, including in your district. And so we have Buy America provisions and U.S. content requirements that wherever they are in statute, we enforce them. Also, on the other side of our house, in the Commerce Department, we also, maintain tariffs and countervailing duties wherever we need to, so we have a vibrant domestic steel industry. You can't be a strong country without making steel.
Thank you. And I was going to ask you about Western Pennsylvania's ecosystem for robotics and our autonomy sector, but a lot of folks have been able to actually ask questions about what I was going to say there, so I didn't want to overwhelm you with repetitive questions. But for my final question, with the development and expansion of the domestic production of semiconductors and other advanced technologies, how is your agency working to continually update the NIST Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Framework to ensure workforce development initiatives are effective in supporting labor but not supplanting labor?
Yes, exactly. Exactly what you just said. Working with NIST, but also the White House has been, working across the interagency to put out other frameworks on the topic you just said, which is how do we deal with the fact that AI is going to change the way we all work, and we have to be there for all workers. Certain jobs will change, but we have to use AI to create jobs, not destroy jobs. For people's jobs will change, but we have to make sure that they are retrained to do different jobs and not left out.
Yeah, I thank you for the consideration that the agency will put into AI and workforce, as people, people with disabilities, people who have various concerns will find increasing access to a quality of life, but we do want to make sure that we're prioritizing workers. My time is done, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Madam Secretary, thank you for being here today, and thank you for your patience. I know it's been a good bit. You spoke earlier, and you've been ongoingly talk about the importance of increasing opportunities for career and technical education. I could not agree more. So I'm going to dive right in and forgo my monologue. What is the Commerce doing to ensure that CHIPS funding goes to projects that will actually create jobs for Americans? And do you believe that the American workforce has the ability to complete these construction projects, and then has the engineers and technicians needed to operate these new fabs here in the country?
I do, but we have a lot of work to do. So I have a team on the CHIPS team who are helping figure out the construction workforce plans with each of the applicants. You know, so Ohio, like these facilities will require 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 people to build. The unemployment rate in the building trades right now, no matter where you live, is like 0, 2%.
Yeah.
So we need new apprenticeship programs. We need to recruit people in high school. We need girls and women to do these jobs. And will we do it? Yes, but I can't sugarcoat it. It's a lot of work. Same thing for in the fabs. We are pushing the companies, governors, mayors, educational institutions, update your curriculum. Teach people what's relevant so they can get these jobs.
Yeah, I mean, even in the state of Ohio right now, and as you know, the Intel project is coming to Columbus, which is just a couple hours south of the 7th District, but we're around 2,000 carpenters short right now for that project in Intel. And as you just said, with the 2% dip in the trades amongst the whole. Now, I love what you said about encouraging our educational system to promote more of the trades, K through 12, technical education, and STEM workforce, and I applaud you for that. I just would really like to see it come from the state and local level and see more of an influx there throughout our entire country than doing what's easiest here, which is just more federal legislation that nobody needs, in my opinion. But I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Can I say one thing on that? As part of the incentive program, the CHIPS money we're putting out, we are requiring the applicant to come to us with money from the state, including workforce. So we're putting the burden on the company, say Intel in your case, for example, would go to Ohio or go to Columbus and find out what incentives, including workforce or apprenticeship programs, whatever, put it in the application before they apply to us. We're trying to draw forward all that at the local level. I also started an initiative called A Million Women in Construction. There's about 1 million women right now in America that work in construction. We got to try to double it. I mean,
awesome. I just met with the group actually right before here about women in construction. You know, I have a few questions here, but I'm just going to ask, what do you think when it comes to the technical education, the drawback that we're seeing amongst the trades? Do you attribute to work ethic? Do you attribute it to societal norms within this country changing? I mean, you've talked about innovation. You know, we've shipped off, you know, manufacturing to focus on innovation within this country, and we've lost out on that, so we don't have parity. I mean, where do you think it is? Because in Cleveland, Ohio, you know, our steel workers, it's hot in the summer, and it's very cold in the winter. And it is tough work, but what I can tell you is they're getting paid $120,000 a year right now with full pensions, and they will be millionaires, and our kids that are going to school will be $500,000 in debt. So just curious what your response is.
Totally agree. You know, I think it's a lot of things. We can maybe follow up when we have more than a minute. I do think the cultural norms, I think like pushing everybody to college isn't necessarily the right move. And like 40% of American kids who go to college drop out. So they have loans, no degree, and it's not a good path. So even when I was governor, I'm a big believer in vocational training, technical skills, apprenticeships. Girls should think of themselves as a plumber or as a welder. They can do these jobs. You know, the average entry level, like certified nurse assistant or home health care, which is heavily women, is like maybe like $15 an hour. And those are tough jobs too. The average plumber apprentice, maybe $40 an hour, on your way to $80 an hour. So I think we have to start to say these are good jobs. They're good jobs for America. You know, not everybody has to be a PhD engineer or whatever. Go do these jobs, build the future of America, and make a good living.
I could not agree more. I'd love to follow up with you later on. Chairman, my time has ended. I yield back.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And now I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Raimondo, for your leadership. I'd like to ask you some questions about artificial intelligence. AI has been a driver of our economy and will continue to be a driver of our economy. Last year, with the public release of large language models, individuals and companies now have access to very expensive AI technology at their fingertips. Largely, that's going to benefit society. It can also cause harm because some of these individuals would be terrorists or criminals. Just a few minutes ago, I went on ChatGPT and simply typed in, how can I build a lethal virus? And it said, I'm very sorry, but I can't assist with that. And then I asked, how do I build a dirty nuclear bomb? Same answer, I can't assist with that. And that's because ChatGPT is a closed AI system, and their programmers put in guardrails so it doesn't answer those questions. Open source large language models, you can have the guardrails removed pretty easily. I want to know if you or the Department of Commerce has a view on whether there should be some regulations on open source AI large language models above a certain size.
Yeah. Let me say this and then answer your question directly. I agree. AI has incredible potential, which is incredibly exciting, especially in healthcare, if you think about, finding cures to diseases more quickly. But the downside is just as scary, and that's why the White House has convened companies to take on voluntary commitments. I think we need to do that as a bridge to this body, Congress, enacting regulations. But yes, we have to think about the threats of open models and come up with a regulatory environment as well, because as I understand it, and you know more than I do, the open models are only like a generation behind the largest frontier large language models, which is to say they're pretty powerful. And so we do need to find ways to regulate and protect the downside for the open models.
Thank you. NIST has done incredible work, and they have put out a AI risk management framework that's gotten good reviews from both the public sector and private sector. Part of it is simply having organizations think through the issues raised by AI and have a process for working through those issues. Earlier this year, Congress members Zoe Lofgren, Haley Stevens, and I wrote a letter to the president asking him to apply the NIST risk management framework to the entire federal executive branch. So I'd like for you to request and consider applying the NIST risk management framework to the Department of Commerce. And if you would look into that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, I will.
And then lastly, I want to follow up on your comment that it was not such a great idea to push everyone into four-year colleges. And I think that if you look across our economy, there is a huge shortage of skilled workers in the trades. And so I support your efforts in that regard. Anything I can do to help incentivize having more people in the trades, I would like to help you with that.
Thank you.
With that, I yield back.
Thank you.
Mr. Caston from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman. Madam Secretary, nice to see you today. I want to chat a little bit. As you know, when we were debating what became the CHIPS and Science Act, our office was concerned about, with this huge amount of money, thankfully, that we're putting in, how do we make sure that those taxpayer money is not going to shareholders through buyback programs, and how do we put those protections in place? And ultimately, we weren't successful in getting the strong language we wanted in there. There's some weaker language in the bill, and such as the legislative process. But as a result of that, we had led a letter last February to Michael Schmidt in your office asking basically what could we do administratively to put those stronger protections in. Grateful for a lot of the back and forth we had with your office afterwards, in addition to some of the statements that your office and you personally have made about giving preference to companies that are not going to engage in buybacks. Having said all that, I'm a little bit concerned about your exchange at the start of this hearing with Mr. Babin, saying that if a company, that would not be a prerequisite for funding if a company didn't make those commitments. And so, to my mind, if that's not a prerequisite, that raises the possibility that we may find ourselves in a situation giving money through CHIPS to a company that doesn't need the money, essentially displacing private capital and creating what we were concerned about 2 years ago, that wealth transfers from taxpayers to shareholders. And so I guess my first question for you is, when you say that you will be giving preference, Can you explain mechanically what that means? Is this just a nice to have? How are you actually prioritizing when you make these investments?
Yeah. So as you well know, the statute says our money cannot be used for buybacks. So we're going to do everything we can to invest the money in accordance with the statute. What I was saying earlier, I think the question was a version of, can you guarantee you won't give money to a company that does buybacks? And the answer to that is no, we may. But we have a very rigorous system. This is like a lot of back and forth with these companies. They apply, and we have months or weeks of discussion. They need to show us their books, show us their financial plan, show us how much they're investing in research and development, and prove to us that they actually need our money to do whatever it is, that they're doing. So I think of it as like a balance. My number one job is to hit the national security goals. Also to protect taxpayer money, not use any, get a good deal, not give any company a dollar more than they need to hit the mission. And obviously, most important, to do what the statute says. So it is true that we have a preference for companies that won't do buybacks, mostly because we need them to put every single penny they have into their workforce, into innovation, into R&D. But I can't promise you that a company that does in their business do buybacks or has in the past done buybacks won't receive an incentive grant if we think the business they're in is necessary for our national security and they can't be successful in doing that without an incentive.
What enforcement do you have if you do all that, they make the voluntary pledge, and then 2 years from now they violate the pledge? Do you have clawback provisions you're putting in? Like legally, do you have recourse back to that taxpayer money?
Yeah, thank you for asking that because I should have said it before. All of these grants will be sent out in tranches. So let's say XYZ company receives a $2 billion grant. We're not going to wire them $2 billion. They're subject to an investment plan. So you can, get X amount, hit these milestones, get Y amount. If at any point along the way they break any of the conditions, either, depending on what they do, we can claw back money, or they don't get the next installation.
Okay. I'm out of time, but would welcome continuing the conversation and yield back.
Thank you.
The gentleman from California is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for your testimony and your leadership. My district in the San Francisco Bay Area is a hub of the innovation economy, so lots of folks are interested in how CHIPS and science is rolling out. In July, the Semiconductor Industry Association released a study that projected a shortfall of 67,000 workers in the semiconductor industry by 2030. As you know, to address this challenge, CHIPS and Science Act authorized a number of workforce development programs scattered throughout the CHIPS office, R&D programs and incentives programs. I am a veteran of our California Workforce Development Board as well as our local Workforce Investment Board in San Mateo County. So my question is, how is the department's overall strategy enabling the semiconductor workforce through these programs, how that coordination is happening with the existing federal workforce funding streams, but also is there coordination going on with the state workforce development boards and state and local workforce boards? How is all of that being integrated, if it is?
It is. The way we're endeavoring to do that coordination is every company who applies for money or receives money has to give us a workforce plan that we approve after extensive back and forth. And in that plan is what is the state doing, what's the city doing, what's Commerce doing, but then also, like, as I said before, the NSF. So we're trying to have a plan in place for every, company's proposal.
And
I also have a workforce team, I should say. I built a workforce team at the CHIPS office in Commerce. So just to give you a sense, we are really serious about the workforce component and providing technical assistance where we can so that everyone has a really fulsome workforce plan.
Great. And my district has over 600 life science companies, so I just wanted to ask you about how NIST collaborates with other agencies such as the FDA, for example, to create frameworks and standards that ensure biotech products go through the regulatory process in an efficient way. What kind of coordination is happening through your department and other entities like the FDA, for example?
Exactly what you say. I think NIST is, I give so much credit to them because they are like neutral, science-based place that works with industry but also other agencies. And I know biotech is one of the top priorities.
Thank you for your leadership, and with that, I yield back.
Thank you.